Okay, welcome to the 1 hour healing session. And we're starting this morning with a true story called The Angry Drunk. Have you ever suddenly found yourself somewhere you would normally never have been? One exceptionally cold night, I left work late. And since I was already late for my third Thursday of the month meeting, I decided to take the tube instead of my usual stroll. Waiting for the train, I realized that Camden Downs Station, oh, I've been there, on the Northern Line was the last place I wanted to be. A train rolled into the station, the doors opened, and clumsily I climbed aboard. The doors closed, the train pulled forward, and I struggled to balance myself, my briefcase, and my shopping bag. At this point, the crowded train ride was the only normal thing about the evening. The Northern Line is always crowded, noisy, and rocky. I secured myself and my bundles. After years of traveling on the underground, I learned to avoid any eye contact with the other passengers. Past experience has taught me that most of the people who want to talk to you are either crazy and/or they want something from you. Standing there, minding my own business, I noticed that the guy in front was staring at me. At first, I did what I normally do. I ignored him. I casually looked to my right and to my left, but as my glance passed his stare, our eyes locked. His eyes were watery. I suspected that he'd been drinking. Wondering if I had mistaken a blank look for a deliberate stare, I decided to have another casual look around. Sure enough, our eyes met again. He asked me if this was the way to Green Park. My suspicion was confirmed. He was definitely drunk. His speech was slurred and his eyes were hazy. He was having difficulty keeping his balance as the motion of the train rocked us back and forth. I instructed him to change trains at Leicester Square. While I was directing him, I noticed a change was coming over his face. In an angry voice, he told me how he was stinking drunk. My nervousness turned to anxiety. My blood pressure, which usually rise when anyone speaks to me, but especially when trapped in an underground carriage with anyone who has been drinking. I immediately invited the Holy Spirit to guide me and to comfort me. I slowly inhaled and exhaled deeply to keep my body relaxed. Surprisingly, I felt peaceful. He proceeded to tell me how much he wanted to punch someone's face in. I silently called out, "Oh God, what now?" I remained calm and quiet. All this time I maintained eye contact. Not once did I look away. However, his anger increased. He became enraged. He held his hand up to my face and repeated how he wanted to hurt someone. Was I going to be the one? The train stopped, the doors opened, and I stepped off. The old me would have pretended this was my stop, or at least walked to a different carriage, or waited for the next train. But none of these choices crossed my mind. I stepped back up into the train, back in front of the angry drunk. Again, he held his hand up to my face. This time, his angry voice declared how he wanted to see blood. With his hand still in my face, he asked me if I understood his need for blood. I was still not afraid. Normally, I would have been a nervous wreck. I spoke, but my voice had an unfamiliar tone. Without sounding condescending or patronizing, the new voice asked, "Why are you angry?" He immediately lowered his hand. His angry face became sad. In the voice of a child in pain, he said, "My mother died today." A powerful sensation swept through my body. The memory of how I felt when my cousin Paul died flooded my mind. Putting my fist through a door was the way my anger, which I had initially felt, expressed itself. I shared this memory with him. His anger was overcome by grief. The train stopped at Leicester Square. Together we walked to the escalator. leading to where he could catch the train to Green Park. As we walked, I said, "You're experiencing something I have not, and I'm not looking forward to." I empathized with how painful it must have been for him to lose his mother. He looked at me with sorrowful, empty eyes. He held up his hand for me to hold. Earlier, the same hand wanted to strike someone, to hurt someone as much as he was hurting. Instead, his pain was shared. As I was unfamiliar with this form of handshake, our hands clasped awkwardly, confirming that this holy encounter was real. As he turned to walk to his train, I touched his shoulder and said, "Take care of yourself." I do not know how else to express what happened next, but I felt my love for him pass through my hand. He turned back to me as if he felt it too. With a look in his eyes that I will always remember, he lifted his hand and said, "God bless you." A feeling came over me which I usually only experience with close friends and family. Rarely have I felt God's blessing this strongly. I felt truly blessed and filled with joy. Today, I know the difference between joy and happiness. You can experience joy even when you're filled with sorrow. There you go. That last line just brought a memory back from an awake an awakened lady called Jan Fraser that I like to read or have read a lot of. And she explained that she always kept this sort of quiet joy inside her since she woke up. But it didn't mean that other emotions didn't happen. She said she felt her thinking had probably decreased by 80%. But she said, if someone close to me dies, I feel like a wall of grief moving through me. But unlike most people, we have like a door open at front and the grief comes in. The back door should be open, which is in her case. And the grief is felt very intensely and then moves through and sort of goes out the back. While the unawake tend to have a closed door and then the grief is stuck there and they ponder it, perhaps go into self-pity. But why I mentioned this is that she said, simultaneously, I felt strong grief, and at the same time, I felt the quiet joy. And we think, well, you can only have one or the other, but one sort of sat on top of the other. She never lost the foundation. Well, any sharings from either of you read that story?
For me, it's really that reminder of asking the Holy Spirit to step in.
That was the key.
And not, just, knowing that we don't know what to do or what's going on or in each situation, and allow for that to happen, for that presence to be there, to be able to come from that space.
Yeah, I agree.
Do you remember that story, Michael, or Judith, you may know it too, that Kenneth Wapnick used to tell about? I think it was him that had a burglar come into his house. Do you remember that?
We're just here, actually. It's a very short story.
Yeah, do you want to tell that one?
That's like a 2-minute story, and you're dead right. It was exactly the same, wasn't it? Okay, this is the burglar from Ken Wapnick. Yeah, it's just a very short one. This is from his book, The Meaning of Forgiveness, page 101, the first major book he produced. Several years ago, I was awakened in the middle of the night by the sudden realization there was someone standing in my room. After the momentary shock, I remembered from the workbook 77, page 77, there is nothing to fear, and calmly asked my invited guest, "What can I do for you?" The situation was not obscure, however. It was clear that the man was on drugs and desperately needed money for his next fix. burglars rarely enter occupied apartments. He threateningly held his hand in his jacket as if he had a gun to punctuate his demand. My defenselessness seemed to change the atmosphere in the room, however, and the man soon began apologizing for having broken in and disturbing my sleep. I gave him whatever money I had in my wallet, and the man paused as he took it and then returned a couple of dollars, saying, "This is all your money. I can't leave you with nothing." And he went on apologizing. I assured him it was all right and urged him to do what he had to do. As I ushered the man to the hall, waiting with him for the elevator, I said, "God bless you." His final words as he disappeared into the elevator were, "Please pray for me." I assured him I would, although I knew that this holy encounter had been the prayer. No injustice had been done, for there had been no real loss. The amount of money was small in price indeed for the blessing of forgiveness that had been given and received as one.
Mm.
Lovely, isn't it? And so similar. So similar. Great. So I think it's time for the exercise. And this would be one where you can, again, choose to reduce physical or psychological pain. So if you like to get comfortable and close your eyes.
Mute on or?
Yes, you can mute so we don't hear anything. You want to mute, Jill? Thank you. Okay, we'll begin by taking a few deep breaths. And with the next breath, just breathe in and tense the muscles of the legs. And as you breathe out, just relax the legs. Then breathe in and gently tense the muscles of the stomach. And relax as you breathe out. Next, breathe in through the arms and make fists of the hands. And relax. Breathe in and squeeze the shoulder blades together. And relax. Lastly, check that your neck and head are relaxed. You can move your head around in a circle if you like. Just become aware of the chair or sofa that you're sitting on, the contact you're making. And become aware of any sounds around you. Just allow them to be there. And so we move into the present moment. Surrounding you now and always is a presence of help, of love, of peace, joy. It would like to come and be with you in this exercise, to help you, to guide you. So let's send out a silent prayer of welcome to join you now. Although this being knows everything about you, it has no judgment of you. It knows you are an eternal, formless spirit of Christ. It's temporary dreaming and has nightmares. If it helps, you can see it as a light coming down upon your head and heart and body, or a hand you hold. You can use this exercise for physical or psychological pain. If it's psychological, it may be something about yourself, perhaps something you don't like about yourself, or maybe it's an issue with a person. Whatever it is, make it real. Bring the conversation back. Bring to mind perhaps the feeling of dislike about yourself. It's all right to feel angry or sad or attacking. If nobody comes, you can just choose someone you don't like. Or it may be a physical problem. And you may want to scan yourself from toes to head to see if there's a tension there. If it was a psychological problem, then you'll feel that tension in the body. You can bring your awareness there now, where you're holding that anger or whatever pain it is. And if it's easy, you can put a hand, an accepting hand, over that part of the body. We're not trying to heal it ourselves, but we are trying to accept it. And part of acceptance is to look at this physical or psychological pain and look at how large it is, where it starts and stops. And what shape is it? How deep does it go into the body? How dense is it? Is it hard or soft? Do you perceive a color there? Does it feel any hotter or colder than the rest of the body? Now I want us to go through that all again and notice if they're the same or if they've changed. And so we begin with the size of the physical or psychological pain. Have another look at it. And how about the shape? Any changes there? If you saw a color, has that changed or is it the same? And the temperature? How far does it go into the body? The same? And now for a third time, we're going to go through it, but I'll just let you go at your own pace. Shape and size and color and temperature, and depth. And now, can you sense any emotion, any feeling there? Some upset, like anger or grief or whatever? Give it a voice. Let it speak to you. You now listen. Ask it to describe itself, how it's feeling. Ask it, why is it there? Why have you created it? How it serves you? Ask it, why do I keep you? What am I afraid of in letting you go and being free now? Ask yourself, is it time to be free now? Can I let this pain go and what it represents? If you feel it is time to be free, first thank it for being there as a messenger for you. Tell it you got the message now, and you no longer need to be there. Thank it, but say, I no longer need you in my life. And I now release you. And now with your next breath, bring down a golden light, a golden, beautiful, healing light down through the head, through the neck, into the area where you have been feeling pain. And see that whole area start to fill up with that golden light. Every breath you draw more light into that area. And it replaces the pain. And it feels good to be without that pain. And you say to yourself, I am as God created me. I am that eternal, formless spirit. And this is how I walk forward into life. I am as God created me. I am his daughter eternally. I am as God created me. I am his son eternally. Take your time, and when you feel ready, bring yourself back to the room. Welcome back. Welcome back.
I was going to say, just your last comment there, Michael, it might be useful to hear what Michael has to say about that.
The last bit.
Yeah. The, I've been proven right. This world is a horrible place.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just Did you want to tell yours, Judith, though? Because yours is so good.
Oh, the experience? You don't want to...
Yeah. Oh, well, it was just like Michael's probably heard me say this so many times. I'm always saying it, but it was just, Michael, that I was saying that everybody always, I see when we do these exercises, everybody has these fabulous experiences, and I just get this light, and I'm always like, get this light out of my face. I want to see something. I want to experience what everybody else is experiencing. But it's just this, I get this light that just gets brighter and brighter. And in the past, a long time ago, I have been tempted to open my eyes because I thought, where did the sun come from? It's dark. In that, I'm actually sitting in a dark room. Where's the sun come from? But what Judith is referring to is that part of the process of going through the exercise, I got the impression that my knee issue was about, it was also, part of it was about, you are as God created you. You are as God created you. You've seen what you are, and your knee is to bring you back to your humanness, because you're frightened of who you are and what you've seen. And that makes you go, oh, well, I'm in pain. Oh, well, of course I'm a body, because I've got this pain. But the other thing was that Judith is talking about is that recently I am irritated by things, because for all my life I thought that the world was not a particularly nice place, and I always thought it was hell. That I believed that it was hell. And recently it feels like I've been proved right, that it really is an awful place, with what's going on and how we seem to be being manipulated, by somebody or something. And the whole world just seems to be about to sort of implode. Right. I think that's what you're talking about, wasn't it, Judah?
Yeah.
Only came up for me. I've been doing these exercises, for many years, and there's a small percentage of people who immediately go off on a different direction the moment I start. And it turns out to be absolutely perfect. Now, in your case, this light was growing brighter and brighter. And this is more advice for the future, unless you want to repeat this exercise, because it will be posted, is you totally ignore me. I'm in the background, and maybe I'm helping to set, along with the other people, like an atmosphere, a presence where something can happen. Because they may actually want to get to you on some other issue altogether. And that also comes up, that these people who go off in other directions says, well, I was totally surprised what happened. It wasn't what I was going to look at, and what wasn't what you were saying, Michael, at all. So I just encourage you, and you talk later about, the fear. And of course, fear can come up at that point, and surrender is needed. So I would just go with that light. Hang on and go with it, because it might be a huge blessing for you there, Jill.
Well, I thought this time, I feel not really disrespectful, because you don't know what's going on in my head, but it's just like every time we've done this over the years, all the years that maybe we've done those exercises, in one form or another at workshops, and it's like I got to keep bringing myself back to what you're saying, because it's like I have no idea what, this isn't. It's not what I'm seeing. I can't see what you're saying, and I can't feel. So and then this light just comes, and I'm off somewhere else, and it kind of like, oh, don't tell him that. Don't tell him I'm not listening to anything he's saying.
No, I think it's wonderful. I encourage you just to use what I'm doing to go into the light and do your own thing. And
okay.
I really, really, yeah. And I have the proof for like 30 years of people coming back to me saying something amazing happened, but it was not what you were guiding.
Yeah.
And one guide came through once and said, we're always trying to get through to you. You're so busy. And that when Michael gets you relaxed in the exercise, we see a chance.
Okay.
And we're trying to come in at that moment to give you something, you know, that perhaps you're unaware that you need, but it's what you need. And we're going to use the lesson that Michael's doing to try and get to you.
Hmm.
So you have full permission to ignore me. It's the presence that's good. And for homework, you could try this again to be up in
Okay.
it and say, here we go, and where I'm going, welcome to the light. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
And Judith, you had something interesting to share, didn't you?
Yeah. And hey, I would love to have that experience of that light and be like, ooh, you know, yeah, go with that. That's fantastic, you know, instead of this obedient going along. I mean, yes, I started off with yours, and it was a sadness, and it was parts that I wasn't accepting in myself, and it was started off as a storm, and then by the time we went to the second looking at it, it was a tunnel, and it was going like from that darkness to the light, and it was like this storm, this conflict, this non-acceptance is really just a catalyst and a tunnel to the truth. Yeah, and I ended up in the light at the other end of the tunnel before we even got to talking to the part. So yeah, that bit in the end, it was just like, it's like I now have that tool. If anything comes up, I can now just see it as that tunnel, that catalyst that's drawing me to the truth. If I just accept it, you know. I was talking about it to Trevor this morning about acceptance, you know, and that was just taking it to that next level of, yeah, it is really just that gift to be able to go straight through if we accept it and allow that. So,
And that came early on in the exercise, is that right?
yeah, that all came before we went into the talking to the part. So just as we went through, yeah, the tunnel came in the second, looking at the shape. It got me quite by surprise that it just shifted, boom. So yeah.
Isn't that interesting? Because this is similar to what Jill said, that an unexpected thing arrived. And so maybe in the future, I think I will add, if I remember at the beginning, that, you know, if you start going in a different direction on this exercise, ignore me and follow it. I've done my bits. I've got you started, you know, with the help of the other members, and off you go. You can even turn the volume down and don't listen to me. Just go, you know. They've got something even better to give you. Oh, how lovely. Good. So we've had our hour, but is there anything else you'd like to share or talk about before we end today?
It was lovely to finish with that golden light, and there was just that remaining little bit of sensation in the chest, and that golden light. It's a lovely way to finish it. It went right in and released anything that was left.
Good. That was given to me because I hadn't planned it. It just felt like, oh, golden light time. So we're all being guided here. Just got to let it in and follow it, haven't we? Oh, sweet.